seagulls follow the shore, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday Blether on the Bhoycie Bus. I'm your host, David Logue, and I'm joined by a slightly different Sunday lineup today, folks. Mr. Friday Night Phil McGinley is not here. He's having a well-earned Sunday off. He's been watching WrestleMania. Point lying about it. We all know what he's been doing. I watched some of it too, but I'm here because I'm a professional, Phil. All right, I'm calling you out, big man. There's more than just one person calling you out on the online today. I'm calling you out. Yeah, and look, the face that runs the place, Regan Stevenson's not here either. And look, the judge. Look, hamstrings pulling up everywhere, guys. There's a whole new lineup. There's a whole new midfield today on the pitch for Celtic, and there's a whole midfield change up here on the bus. The big bus man himself, Bhoycie. Welcome to the Sunday Blether. Have you been on this yet with me?
No, not since you took it, mate. No, this is the first time. You had to get the reserves in, mate. But I'll do my best to try and make an impression on the first team today, mate.
Yeah, you were warming up on the side of the pitch last night, that's for sure, mate. Well,
I was doing star jumps outside your office, mate.
you be getting let go after the game.
That's really good. Here, by the way, one thing I will say is I texted you this morning. I've not had a chance to get to the shop yet. I've just moved into the gaff, and I'm an opportunist at times, David. Right? So when I moved in, they were like, "It's a prepaid meter." I went, "That's not really ideal." However, there was 21 quid sitting in it, so I was like, "Well, I've not paid for that, so I'll just use it." There's 20 pence of that left. No, I've not had the chance to go to the shop yet, so if we cut off.
I'll be fine. So,
no, I'll set up my mobile data. I'll only be off for 2 seconds. I'll get us back on because the laptop's got plenty of battery. But it's just so you know, I had to use up someone else's lecky though, mate. Do you know what I mean? I was like, that's 20. It was £20.75 sitting in it last Tuesday, which I don't actually think it's that bad. It's lasted that long.
Always an opportunist, mate. Always an opportunist.
Yes.
We're having a wee bit of technical difficulties as usual when it's myself on the show. But basically what was happening, guys, is that Bhoycie was coming through my speakers and I couldn't figure it out because I had the auxiliary cable plugged into the monitor. We were fanning about for ages. And then we thought, fuck it, we'll just do it without it'll be fine. midway through the introduction, all the tech was that I realised that I just needed to plug the auxiliary cable into where it was supposed to be.
You were joking me, that's what it was.
Well, I just was like, why is it coming through the PC?
You were
and
raging.
And then mid-show, I was like, plug it into where the sound source is actually coming from, and that'll be fine. What we got there, right? Good
That's
stuff.
funny.
Let's get that all out of the way. Like, share, subscribe, join the Bhoycie Bus, become a member, all that jazz. We're on a tight schedule today, Bhoycie, so I'm just going to rattle through this, all our content is free, but if you want to help support the bus, you know what to do. Become a Bhoycie Bus member. Also, big shout out to our pastry delivery team, that is piesports.com. Get on there, order your pies. You get 12.5% off with Bus 1888. The tops they're done. They're guys, the orders in, I believe. Bhoycie, is that right? They are in, so
Yes,
they'll
they
be
are. And a huge shout out to Johnny Reynolds, right? So I want to make a point and saying a big shout out to him. I have never seen him in the comments before. And for whatever reason, everyone that ordered the shirts, I just went to the crookedarm@ymail.com email address. And I never thought to look at the spam folder, David, until I'd already sent the order off. In the spam file, this guy's been 2 weeks, mate. He's been sitting there going, hello, is this your email address? I want to buy 3 shirts, mate. So I managed to get them in. I got it in, and it's 66 Sportswear. We're going to put a wee link for them on the bios going forward as well, because they couldn't have been better to work with, to be honest with you. What are you making of the jersey, David? It's like cool.
Look at that, mate. Look at this.
Enjoyed it. It's mint
It's like a glove. Fits like a glove. If you need to stretch the glove, I've put on a bit of weight since I put my order in. But the good show if I was Steve-O. But really comfortable. Really I do like the
elasticated sleeves.
It does make you look like you've been hitting the gym even when you haven't. So
even I felt like that, and I've never been in a gym in my life. Do you know what I mean? I was like, been working
right.
out now.
Let's move on, because we are on a tight schedule. The boys are playing the day at 12 o'clock. So what's coming up on today's show? Well, Ange shoots down rival managers' comments. Is it too easy for Ange, Bhoycie? Celtic to lose another prospect. Well, not to worry. Celtic are in for Premier League youngster. Legends of the game. They want to visit Lennoxtown. They want to see what Ange is all about, up close and personal. And of course, we'll start off with a look ahead of Celtic's trip to Dingwall. Bhoycie, the lineup has just been announced just before we came on air. Okay. I'll rattle it off for you, mate. Got Hart in goals as usual. Johnson, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, McGregor, Iwata, O'Reilly, Jota, Maeda, and Kyogo. Any surprises for you in that starting lineup today?
I think the glaring one's Iwata. I think, again, the international break, we kind of speculated whether this would be good for the Celtic squad or not. But we weren't sure, let's be honest, whether it was going to be a good move. I definitely think, though, that Iwata's had the integration. I've said this before. I think in January, when you get when you get guys from the J League, sorry, I just minced my words. That was an accident. When you get guys from the J League, I think naturally, fucking hell, man, bad start. I think normally there would be an integration period. I know we're going to get banned. That's the ad revenue gone for another week, David, right? But anyway, and the judge isn't even on. But normally there would be a few months before they get sort of, even if they're meant to be first team regulars, you want them to adapt. The reason we expect instant results from these guys is because of the success rate Maeda, Hatate, Kyogo had. But they were kind of needs must. That's why they went straight in at the team. Yeah. If you look at it, Iwata actually comes with probably the highest pedigree of them all. He's not a young player. He's not a project player. He's the J-League Player of the Year. He was the captain at the club Ange came from before. On paper, he should be the one we're most excited about. I don't think this guy's not been on the team through an ability thing or because he's going to be padding for the squad. I think he's first team, mate. I think this is a first team player that we've just had to be patient with, because moving from Japan to Scotland is quite the culture shock. These are two different types of leagues, two completely different types of countries. And normally, I think in an ideal world, I think Kyogo would have been integrated similarly. I think Hatate would have been slower getting blended into the team. Same goes for Maeda. We had these guys were brought in the first 2 windows of Ange's reign. Do you know what I mean? See, when you're getting brought in then, and you look at the mess Celtic were in when Ange took over, he had to have instant hits, mate. He's brought in a lad to a title-winning team, a side that was 9 points clear in the league, a side that's dropped points in 2 SPFL games out of 29 this season. There's no real need to rush his sort of inclusion into the side. And I think now we're beginning to see what Ange's future is going to be, because I notice a lot of people in the comments as well. I don't know if you want to read out the bench or not, but it looks like there's a bit of a youthful sort of look to that as well. And
Yep, we've got Bain, Haksabanovic, Turnbull, Kobayashi, O, Barnaby, Summers, Welsh, and Vata. So Welsh is back on the bench, and of course Summers he's been on the bench maybe once or twice, and Vata's been a bit of a regular in the first team squad now. Not seen much of him yet, but yeah, they're starting to. But then going back to what you're saying about Awata. When you look back to last year, like you're saying, we had to kind of chuck Hatate and Maeda in when they came in January, and of course O'Reilly as well. Look how quickly Hatate burned out, because he went straight from finishing the J League, flew over to Scotland and was playing almost immediately. And then he said it himself that he was mentally exhausted. He felt that he had underperformed despite him really hitting the ground running. We're not in a position now where we needed to risk doing that to Awata. He's just finished a J League, come over in January. There was no need to just throw him straight in. So
see, just very quickly on that comment, right? I'm not trying to take over hosting here, David, but you've just piqued my interest there, because see when Ange said you've not seen the best of Hatate, then we kind of scoffed, if you remember.
Yes.
We were like, I said he's not quite fit yet and all that sort of thing. I actually think he was right. I think Hatate's took his game to a completely different level this season from last. If I'm honest, I think his improvement has been seismic.
Oh yeah, he's really went up a level, and whether that's been a case of he's improved since arriving here, or Ange has been like, no, you honestly you haven't seen anything yet. This guy is absolutely miles better than what we've seen. You've seen a little flash in the pan of what he's capable of in the first few games, but I've had to throw him in there. Ideally, I would have liked to have bled him in. Are you surprised to see Maeda's made it into the starting lineup today after the issues that he's had with injuries while over in Japan? Well, obviously before he even flew out to Japan.
I happen to think Maeda's a freak of nature, mate, and it doesn't surprise. He's one of those folk you could get a cruciate ligament injury, David, and he'll be fit again in 3 months. He's just one of those guys, you know what I mean? I think whatever that knot was, I think between Japan and Ange, who I'm going to guess have an extremely good relationship. I think Ange would be a phone call away from them to say, look, he's had a knock, what do you want to do? I think the mutual respect will be there if Ange goes, I'll just send him over. Do you know what I mean? Just send him home. And we'll get him fit for the next game. I've got no concerns about that. Ange, see the one thing, whenever a winger's selected, it's never for a lack of options, mate. There's always options. So if he's getting picked, you don't need to play a half-fit Maeda when you look at the options we've got in the wide positions. So if he's playing, he's fully fit, no concerns.
I'd read somewhere online that apparently Maeda was he'd asked and requested to return back to Glasgow early so he could make sure he was fit and ready for the running. That says a lot about Maeda's character. I mean, it's one of those ones. It's like, I'm no use out here in Japan. I'm just going to be sitting around. I've enjoyed my wee trip back, catching up with the guys, but I've got important things to do, and I need to get back and be ready. And I think that just speaks volume of what the culture that Ange has created. And remember, he goes on about characters. It's not just about the playing ability. He likes the personalities and the characters to be a big part of his recruitment. And I think that if it's true, if he did take it up upon himself to come back early, then that speaks volumes.
The rest of them are raging. The rest of them are like, I'm doing it, you're just walking it. Like, wee bastard.
Well, he's the fastest man. He's got the fastest feet in Japan. He can do what he likes. You know, it doesn't matter if he's injured and he plays in the SPFL. He will still get called up regardless. He's obviously seen it at a really high in high regard, I think, out there. We do. He's a bit of an enigma for us, and you never know what he's going to do. And he had these doubters, but I think over there, I think they really do have him on quite a high pedestal out in Japan. And there's I don't know. But there was a couple of stories coming out yesterday, so take it with a pinch of salt. With it being the date that it was of April Fool's Day, but there was talk about Southampton ready to put an 8 million bid in and stuff. Now, like I said, I'm going to go that it was an April Fool's just trying to antagonise us. But Southampton have been linked with Maeda already this season.
They have.
So you can read into that what you will. I can't see it being a very lucrative move for Maeda to move down to Southampton, probably playing in the Championship next season. I just don't see it. Don't see why he'd want to leave what he's got at Celtic with Ange. The whole reason he came over to go and play for a club that might not even may have a different manager again at the start of the next season. And
could be a different league. It could be in the Championship, mate. Could they not?
Yeah, well, they're sitting rock bottom at the minute, I believe. And I think Crystal Palace, they got a last-minute winner yesterday. The results going the way they didn't help Southampton's cause at all.
What did you make of the fee that was quoted? Because I know what you're saying about the April Fool's thing. But notwithstanding that, I can't help but feel that if GP 8 million must be an April Fool's. I get where he's coming from to an extent. Mm-hmm. But there's another side to me, right, where I'm going, but when you think about it, our top scorer for last season left for 4.5 million. Juranovic, the £20 million Croatian international, is left for 7.5 million. Maeda for 8 million. Suddenly, when you look at those optics, I'm just worried that clubs will now start lowballing offers in, because there's a kind of attitude I see that seems to be a wee bit like, if they want to go, they can go. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think, if I'm totally honest, I think Ange's attitude, whilst I kind of like it, I think that could have been kept in-house a wee bit more. I don't think it was the savviest thing to kind of make it so abundantly clear, like, if they want to go, they can go. Because clubs get a whiff of that, and they lowball Scottish clubs. We always know that, even including ourselves. And Southampton have had one hell of a strike rate getting guys for Celtic. They pay for the Championship players that were never of the level of Van Dijk. £13 million. 13 million for Van Dijk. Do you know what I mean? You see players leaving the Championship in England for upwards of 15. This guy's went on to be the best defender in the world for a certain amount of years. I wonder if that's a great message for us to have getting pushed out. Do you know what I mean, Nick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's one of those ones where I think with the likes when it came to Juranovic and Yakimakis, I think Ange was quite happy to let them leave. And I think he may have showed too much of his hand there to almost hurry them out the door. Like, I don't want them lingering around here if they want to leave. Because, to be honest, I kind of want them to leave so I can then get Owen and get Johnson, and I need them out the door. But then,
I totally get that. I totally get that.
When it comes to the likes of a Maeda, a Hatate, a Jota, I'm not so sure he'd be as keen to put it out there that, if Maeda wants to leave, then he can leave. I think Maeda plays a far bigger...
Has it been categorised, though, David, that, like, Celtic players are up for sale? Or has it been made like this is an individual thing? And that's where I'm getting at. I'm going, I just hope people didn't realise that, like, or think this was a generalisation of how we approach our assets, so that you can just fuck off.
It can totally be read that way, absolutely. And maybe Ange's, maybe one of the ones that Ange might reflect back on and go, maybe I shouldn't have. But at the time, I needed these guys at the door. But it's totally feasible the way you're looking at it in terms of, well, the clubs like Southampton go, let's call his bluff then. Let's see, chuck an 8 million bid in at Maeda, let's see what happens. And if they say no, let's just check. We'll try test the result with the 10 million. But like we were saying a couple of weeks ago, the world that we live in just now, the transfers that, because of the level of the league, and not really shining amazingly in the Champions League, we are looking at the potential low ball offers coming in.
I just think as well that you need to remember the market that are looking at you. Say the Maida thing does have legs. Say there was a story in it. I think when it's EPL, we've got to be bold and put a premium on any EPL club. And that's not in a snide way because it's English football or anything. I just look around and go, every other country does it. If an English club wants to buy you, you stick 10 million on. Look at Benfica, mate. How many guys have they sold for 40 million upwards? Like,
Mate, they spent 10 million. They spent 10 million on that Enzo, the Argentinian. I don't know if it was Benfica. Sold him for 100 million a season later.
Aye, more than that.
Because Chelsea, because they knew that Chelsea had the money, were signing players left, right, and centre.
Yep.
They pull the pants down. They pull English teams' pants down. And
I think we should be doing that. I think we've got to be lively to that. And whilst I totally accept if a club from another league comes in, and I think we've seen that in the January window, the English Premier League spent 600-700 million, and the next closest to it, I think, was Serie A or Ligue 1, one of the two, and it was 25 million. That was the next highest spending league. Look at that jump. You've got to shaft these bastards, you know what I mean? That's just what you've got to do. And yeah, I think, interestingly, not saying Celtic are being naive as well, because when you actually look at it, Giakoumakis went to the MLS, Juranovic went to the Bundesliga. So, in fairness, neither of them went to EPL clubs. Maybe that was realistic money for leagues that aren't the EPL. Do you know what I mean? I think if it's Southampton's the world, Bournemouth's of the world, Burnley's of the world, I think you stick. I think it was Dahalo in the comments. Stick a 1 in front of it, no matter what they bid. If they bid 9 million, stick a 1 at the front of it. 19. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, I remember watching one of the transfer deadline days a couple of seasons ago, and it was like it was one of the Spanish journalists was saying, "We honestly, the clubs laugh at the clubs over here. They laugh at the clubs in England about how much money they're willing to spend just because."
Yep.
Because they have the money,
Yep.
And then I know this has totally nothing to do with Celtic, but just while we're on the topic of ridiculous money being thrown about down south, and why our league isn't getting the same sort of advertisement or whatever you want to call it. There's the Zone willing to spend how much to get the Championship on board, and then is it not?
I think so. The bidding rights right now, I think the deal right now is 60 million a year. And the Zone were offering like 100.
All right, I thought I'd read 200. Maybe I'm making that up. But regardless, you're getting
right.
streaming sites like the Zone now. These juggernaut streaming sites that are just scooping up leagues like the Championship.
I know
that kind of money. The money that's going to be getting thrown around from even the lower English side is becoming almost impossible. Absolutely impossible to deal with. We'll struggle to knock back bids from Preston North End at this rate.
I know.
Why would you want to go to Preston North End? We've got Champions League next season. Because they can. Because,
$100,000 a week, mate.
Wild. Let's talk about players leaving.
Go on.
Celtic set to lose another promising young player. As Aston Villa close in on Aidan Borland. According to reports, the youngster has worked his way up through the youth ranks at the Parkhead Club and has looked impressive in various age groups. Bhoycie, why can't we hold on to our young prospects?
There's two sides to it. I don't think the setup there in Scotland is particularly compelling for a young player. I know people wanted us. They thought the Lowland League thing would work. I think whilst teams probably now try and play football more than they did before, the level ain't great enough consistently for these guys really to develop, and you probably feel a million miles away from it. I always liked before the reserve league. Now, I've spoken about this now. I think players are so pampered and so protected. Their agents don't want them going into those sort of games. Do you know what I mean? Because what the reserve league used to be, David, would be the youngsters, but blended with, say, Iwata, for example. He's getting integrated. He's playing for Celtic reserves in a couple of games. So the levels these youngsters are getting to play with or against is rapidly improving their development. And they're playing against men.
Is it a generational issue, Bhoycie? Is it a generational issue? Just the way the youth is now?
I think now it would be like, oh, that's not fair on the young player. I think they're quite overly pampered a wee bit these days. And I don't always think that's the best for your development. What I probably watched every single open goal interview that's ever been done because I'm fascinated by ex-players. Even if they played for Rangers, I'm fascinated by the story. And honestly, to a man, they tell you the best thing they had as a kid was playing reserves against men and playing against. And go, see when guys are coming back for injury and you're playing alongside them, Paul McStay coming back for injury. Imagine playing midfield with him when you're 18. You're going, what? Paul Lambert coming back for injury. I always remember that being one of the stories. And they were saying, Paul Lambert was 34, just running amok. And he goes, I'm playing midfield. You're like, wow, that's got to help your development. So I wonder if the reason people are leaving isn't because they don't think Ange's got it. They don't think Celtic don't have it. I think whilst our facilities can always improve, I don't think they're miles off it, David.
Are they not fit for purpose, Bhoycie? Is our youth system not fit for purpose?
Yeah, but I think that's a national thing, not necessarily just Celtic. I just think the standards we're striving to have. I do think there's a disparity though, and I don't think the progression level's there. I think when you look at a Ben Doak, he went down to Liverpool under 23s. We all thought, we'll never see him in the first team. He's made 3-4 appearances already now.
Yep.
And he's causing a few waves. He'll look back and go, told you.
Yep.
You know? And I also wonder that, and this is, we're all guilty of this. Celtic is so results driven. So, like, every single game you've got to win. Every single minute is scrutinised by 40 different podcasts, 4 different national radio stations, 50 different newspapers, blogs, right? The scrutiny is so high. Do we afford the gamble? I know the substitutes bench today looks encouraging, but to take the punt of giving Ben Doak more minutes could have potentially cost Ange a league title last season. You've kind of got to play safe too. Do you know what I mean?
Since 2001, 51 players for the Celtic Academy have made it into the first team, with 19 having played in Champions League football. 1 in 3 of the players to come through the academy have gone on to become professional footballers, and 41 players have become full internationals. Again, is it a generational issue? Is the appeal of playing for Celtic not the same as it was back between 2001 and, let's just say, where was the last? Callum McGregor. When he really get into the team? 2015, was it? 16 season under Delia. Like, is it Ben Doak doesn't want to stick around, and seeing those numbers in 51 players have played for Celtic, 19 in the Champions League. Why can't I do it? I'm a potentially a generational talent. Ange Postecoglou in the past has bled young players into his teams elsewhere. We're seeing today Rocco Vata back in the team. We've seen Lawal in the team, and there's Summers getting in the team.
But we're comparing chalk and cheese here, and I'll tell you why, right? Because Bronny Dyler had a free hit for 2 years. Whether we like to admit it or not, there's no rival in that league. Aberdeen with the nearest rival spending a fraction of the budget. You can be a bit more risk-taking in your approach to giving you first-team opportunities there. Whilst the romance of looking back at Dyler's year and going, Calmack, Kieran Tierney, these stand out, right? And you go, what an innovative manager. Put him into the current situ where there is a challenge of sorts. And let's be honest, they won the league only 2 years ago, right? They won the league. I don't think you're quite as flexible in your approach with bringing youth players in, because the pressure's ramped up way more than Tyler's time. Yes, that favoured us because it meant we've seen Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney didn't play in a reserve game for Celtic. Ronnie Dyler watched him in training and went, wow, under 19 straight or under 21 straight into the first team. Like, it was, you see, well, he bypassed one of them. I can't remember if it was under 21s or reserves, whatever it was. But he bypassed the level straight in at the first team. You couldn't do that with a player now in the current climate. And then they were 6 points behind today. As it stands, we're only 6 points behind, 6 points clear as it stands today. 6 points. Managers aren't going to be taking too many chances when it's that nip and tuck, mate.
No, that is true. And it's funny because the question's been asked, the question has... Oh, nice stoned outlaw. Thank you very much. The question has been asked, and I've asked it there: Is the youth system not Celtic's youth system not fit for purpose? I think looking at the amount of players that are being scouted by top Premier League clubs, German clubs, that it is fit for purpose. We are creating and developing excellent young players. It's everything around it is what Celtic are fighting against. It's it's the appeal of where they're playing,
Yep.
how competitive it is to get into our first team, and obviously the pressures of results that are maybe causing our young players to look elsewhere. But then you look at they're moving on to the likes of the Bayern Munichs and the Liverpool. Now, of course, Ben Doak, we've said nobody's seen it coming that he was going to be getting any first team football this season so far. Is that to do with Liverpool's their injury crisis and where they're sitting in the league just now? I mean, they got thumped 4-1 for Manchester City yesterday. Are they in a position where they can kind of offer?
Correct. David, they're not in a title race this year, and they've known that for the last 5 months. They were not in a race. They find themselves in a space this year where it's a transitional year. So you can, again, like I say, be a wee bit more open to integrating youth players. If they were going neck and neck with City like Arsenal are right now, in a proper title tussle, do you think Ben Doak would have been really getting the same amount of games out with? Maybe League Cup, they don't treat with the same. See, again, there's another great example. In the League Cup in England, nobody cares if you go out it. Right? In Scotland, that means you've thrown away a treble. Right? So there's that pressure even on those games to make sure you get the job done.
I'm trying to find the exact stats, but I can't seem to find them anywhere. But there was an interesting article that came up the other day, and it was really focusing around Jude Bellingham, and it was looking at the amount of appearances that he's made since his professional debut, and at the rate it was going, it was starting to compare, obviously, with the likes of the Wayne Rooney's, the guys that came on at 16, and then how quickly they deteriorated when they probably should have been maybe at their peak, and the worry was that maybe that Bellingham's body will break down by the time he's 26, 27 years old and never be the same player that he potentially could be. And we have to look at our own Kieran Tierney. Look how many injuries he's had from the amount of games that he played. He's saying he never played a reserve game. I never really, he went straight into our team at 18 years old. And look at the amount of injuries. He can't play more than 2 or 3 games a season in a row before. So the argument is there, we need to, it's like you're trying to balance, you want to get these generational youth game time and they understand that they want to be playing football, but at the same time, the demands of modern day football, these guys, no matter how good they are, the likes of a Wayne Rooney and of the past and the Jude Bellinghams, their bodies begin to break down a lot earlier than they probably should be. And you can almost see why clubs are reluctant to go, right, you're 17, you're amazing, we see that, but
looking at today's bench though, do you think Ange has got his eyes on the future? He's trying to give these guys that chink of light, that wee bit of hope that they're closer to the first team than they maybe thought they were?
I'm looking at that lineup and I'm going, right, so who would normally, more established players, who would normally be sitting on that bench if...
Well, I think David Timble's not in the squad.
Is he not? Are you sure?
I think there's a lot of comments coming in saying David Timble's time looks like it's up.
All right, he's on the bench today. Is on the bench today.
Because Iwata's starting. Sorry.
Yes. All right, yes. No,
because Iwata's elevated above him now. Because there was a lot of chat earlier on in the live chat saying about Turnbull, is his future lying elsewhere now? Is that I mean, at the end of the day, you get left behind here, mate. It's under Ange, you've got to move with the times. You've got to evolve with this at a rapid rate, or he'll cut you off. I think that's the reality.
Yeah, so moving on from people leaving or potentially leaving, let's have a look at people potentially coming in. And it's not an exciting one, I'm afraid, but it's news that I wanted to bring in. Celtic, Stoke City and Watford are plotting to sign Manchester City star Anderson. Ever heard of him? No, you haven't, because he's only 16 years old and he's a centre-back and he's never kicked a ball for Manchester City. But he is the son of Viv Anderson, who was Sir Alex Ferguson's first signing at Man United in 1987. And he played for Manchester United until 1991. Anderson enrolled his son in City's academy when he was 6.
Wow.
As a result of the impressive standard and facilities, due to the facilities at Man City. But it looks like his time is up. And apparently Celtic are interested in signing him. So we've just talked about why players are not wanting to stick around at Celtic. Where's the appeal then for a player like Anderson to choose Celtic over a Watford or Stoke City? And I know the names aren't glamorous, but
But let's get real here as well, though. I mean, Celtic actually do have a decent track record of doing the opposite of we don't like happening, like a Ben don't leaving. We also look at a Jeremy Frimpong sitting in Man City, under 23s, and going nowhere. We got him for £450,000 with a sell-on clause. You know, come here and we'll give you game time. Maybe the harsh reality is some of these guys in the youth setups at Liverpool's, Man City's, Man United are just of a level that actually could go into our first team, whereas folk in our similar, like our equivalent, it's too much of a jump. I think we've got a decent track record of that sort of thing. And by the way, can I just say, we've never heard of most Ange signings, let's be real. So you could say you just got to back him when he signs a player. I've got good faith that they must be good.
I imagine he's probably going to be for the B team for now, but we might see his name pop up in a couple of years, or we maybe see another one of our players moving on to Liverpool. Who knows? But I just thought I would throw that in there just for a wee talking point. Now we've got legends of the game being invited to Lennoxtown. One Jurgen Klinsmann is on his way to Lennoxtown to get up close and personal with. Yeah, apparently so. He's been invited. You know, remember he is the first team coach for the South Korea national team.
Oh, is it South Korea he's at?
Yep.
I thought he was back. He used to manage USA.
Well, he's now in South Korea, and maybe he wants to come and have a look at one of his young prospects who did score an absolute belter of a goal that was ruled offside.
Gutted for him.
Ji-sung-oh, what a goal that was! It's one of those ones that you're like, oh, just let him have it. Come on, it was like.
By the way, did you not think you seen something in that goal that maybe we've not seen yet in a Celtic jersey? I thought, wow, that was proper. He doesn't know he's offside. Let's get that right.
No, it's great for his confidence. It's good for his confidence.
He looked the part. See the turn that he swivels. It was almost, dare I say it, Michael Moles-esque, the turn. People would like that, but he was brilliant. He's back to go and doing the quick spin. Then the finish is emphatic. I'm beginning to get a wee bit more excited about I am beginning to think. I think we've maybe again landed on our feet here and signed. See, if you're in South Korea's first 11 plans, or on the bench to come on as an impact sub, I would say that's a pretty decent standard.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. That South Korea side have got some excellent players. The boy that's at Napoli, apparently Liverpool are interested in bring him over for you're probably looking around about 70 million. Son as well, of course. I mean, I think that Cho still seems to be getting ahead of. This is a whirlwind.
Did Cho join us?
Well, he was in the papers the other day saying that he was bitterly disappointed that the move didn't happen, but he also feels at the same time that maybe he isn't ready for European football. But I don't know what that says about his personality and his mindset. If
I think he's been looped up, mate, to come to Celtic for the summer. Thank you.
I think so. I think it's been a case of we'll just wait and see. But yeah, so it makes you. I mean, that's quite fascinating, though, that the likes of Jurgen Klinsmann wants to come and see the way we operate, the way Ange's philosophy and training works, and just bouncing some ideas. I mean, Ange is obviously getting a bit of a reputation across, and well, obviously on European shores, but I'm guessing just if Klinsmann's been out there, I don't know how long he's been out there now with the South Korean national team, but Ange obviously has a reputation over in Asia, so that could have something to do with it. But it's a good advertisement for Celtic that the likes of him and such a legend of the game wants to come.
I think Ange is a very well respected boss in every quarter, other than in Scotland, because we'd never heard of him. It's ignorance on our part, of course it is. I think he's very well regarded across various continents. I think he's top dog. I think, I don't know if you've ever seen Craig Bellamy talk about him.
Yes,
Craig Bellamy was sort of not that quite director of football, but in that type of role at Anderlecht, with Vincent Kompany was a player manager there initially, and he said Ange was on our radar big time. He was like, that Postecoglou is a top manager. The interview was It's pretty interesting because I would just, not a bad, you just think, Bellamy, how would you know? And he's like, no. He was in our shortlist. We were looking at him as a potential candidate.
It's like you said, it's ignorance on our part. If you haven't heard of somebody, you must be shy. It's just kind of the mindset that you have. You just have to. But yeah, would you like to take Bellamy? Sorry, mate.
We've only got 10 minutes to go.
Yes, I just noticed we'll on to the game. Yeah, we'll just quickly talk about managers and their respect for Ange. Lee Johnson recently said, if I was Ange, I'm thinking to myself, at what point does it get too easy? But that is a good question, but Ange doesn't seem to think so. He thinks that, what he does is anything but easy. And that brings me back to today's game. I don't know if it's going to be easy, Bhoycie. I think just with the 6 points, back to 6 points, the pressure on us is there again to make sure that we keep them at their distance at 9. I think it'll be a stuffy game to start off with, but I do believe we will get the win. I don't know what your predictions are, but I'm going to go with a stuffy first half, but we'll comfortably win 3-0.
I find it hard to disagree with that. Again, I think Ange tries to take it in his stride as much as possible, and I don't think he would ever say it publicly. I was talking about this with Phil last night. I don't know what your thoughts are, David, but I am not a conspiracy theorist or any of this shit. I find, though, the disparity in how many times we've played after them, particularly since we built a strong lead at the top of the table, I see it as a wee bit naughty. Now, I'm verging on the... Does this normally happen? It'd be interesting to see if you look back. I've not got the time to do it, but if someone wants to have a look, I'll buy them a Bhoycie Bus shirt, right? If someone wants to go back through the last, I don't know, since the millennium, how many times did Celtic and Rangers play in front of each other? And you start tying it up season by season. What's the average? Because since Michael Beale's came in, mate, I can only think of once we've extended the gap to 12 points. Mm-hmm. But it feels like every other week, mate, it's cut down to 6. I'm happy. If people will call us paranoid, I think there's a point to be had there, mate. I think it seems, even for the law of averages, to be a bit out there. Does it not?
Yeah, it's one of those ones that there's always a question being asked of us. Can we handle them creeping up behind us? And the question has been asked by them, but we never seem to get to ask them any questions. Can you get it back to 9? And because if that is the case, if we're playing ahead of them every week and we're constantly moving,
12's a horrible, it feels
points.
like you're miles away too, eh?
Absolutely, and even if you win emphatically against Aberdeen 4-0, it's only 9. We're only back to 9. That's quite disheartening, and it can become a bit like, we would really see their mentality and their resolve.
Where would the mojo be? Because see the mojo to get a gap down from 9 to 6 with 2 derbies to go. Yep. Suddenly the optics of that is a motivational thing. Of course it is. See if you're 12 points behind to get it back to 9. It's hardly like your high five, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact,
9.
I think when you go 12 behind, you kind of feel deflated. You kind of feel like they're way, way gone, regardless whether there's 2 derbies left. So I just think it's interesting. I think people are waking up to it a wee bit. I think there seems to be a bit where people are now, I can see it on social media as well, but there's a few people now twigging going, hold on, let's have a look at the numbers. Again, I want to emphasise, I am not saying there's an agenda at play here. I'm saying I've not done the research enough over the last 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. I would be intrigued to see if a team consistently played in front of the other in a 2-horse race as often as we've seen Rangers do so this season. And I think I'm on pretty solid ground to suggest at this moment in time it's way above the norm this campaign.
It's hard to disagree. I'm with you there. I can't think of a time where it was a case of we really got to see them have the pressure put on them more than us this season. We were always having to try and, let's get back to 9. And I'm the same as you. I'm not one for conspiracy theories and that, but sometimes you start to look at it and you go, these guys are peculiar.
It's peculiar.
Yeah. Yes, it raises an eyebrow, But You know what? They want to play that game. That's fine. We'll put it back to 9 today, and I'll be absolutely fine. But we don't want to give them any smidge, glimmer, whatever you want to call it, of hope. You know, of a slip up today. We have to keep them at a distance, Bhoycie, and I'm very confident that we'll do that. Even with the likes of Atati not playing today, we're going to see.
It's a big loss, though.
It's a big loss.
I mean, I think it's great talking up Iwata and what he's going to bring to the table and the hopes we've got for him. Of course, we've got massive ones, but we can never underestimate as well the impact Attacks had this season. I think he's been sensational. As I said earlier, I think he's took his game to a level higher than what we've seen last season, and Ange was right all along. When he's out the team, yeah, I think he's a loss. I think there's a lot of the play that we always focus on going through Callum McGregor, and I think Brian Warrior's spot on when he says, he gets the ball moving at such a tempo when he's playing that pivot role. You can't deny it. However, I think Attack is a master of his art, mate. He's creative. He's the guy that will miss a man out. When you just play the sideways balls, man to man. It's almost like watching rugby. Attack is the guy that'll miss a man out. Just spray it. We're going
to need O'Reilly to step up and do that today for us, I think. I think that's where our creativity in the midfield is going to have to come from today. So it'll be interesting to see if he can handle that. I mean, he's had his criticisms from certain fan members of the fan base, and it's time for him to step up and prove that he is still a pivotal part in this campaign.
Where do you think McGregor will play today? Do you think he'll stay in the pivot role? I would rather he did. I think that's just now his position for Celtic. And Iwata, maybe we get to see some of his more forward-thinking ideas that could be quite, could be quite compelling. It could be quite fascinating to find out that this ain't no CDM that people maybe think he is. Yeah, Iwata could be a guy who's quite creative on the ball. We've just not seen that side to him as much yet.
Yeah, I think he played a bit more creative, forward-thinking role over in Japan. I'm sure he did. But he has made it quite. He's made it quite abundantly clear he does enjoy the physical, the tackling, the stealing of the ball. He said that when he arrived. He enjoys that part of the game. So I think you'll probably see McGregor play in his usual role. However, there could be a bit more room to be a bit flexible and allow McGregor to maybe move a bit further forward. And if that's the case, Iwata just knows to drop in a little bit.
Well, this is it. So do you go McGregor played that further forward role, or is Celtic's play, as Brown's alluded to so many times, so dependent on McGregor being first point of contact, I would call him, for the centre-halves? Centre-halves look up, and he's running towards them going, give me the ball. He turns, he gets Celtic moving. Take that away, and we could be a different team. However, Callum McGregor, if you remember under Rodgers, was a goal-scoring machine in that further forward advanced role. And, by the way, we've seen O'Reilly play the deepest role in the midfield trio this season as well. Yeah. We've seen it.
So all three of them have we could see it being manipulated throughout the game depending on how the game is going. I think you'd probably start Iwata as a more attacking, a wee bit further forward. And if it isn't, and maybe if it's not working, then you go to experience and go right Iwata. You move in, McGregor. You go a bit further forward. We've seen what he could do after playing 2 full 90 minutes in international football. The game looks like it's finished, and he almost creates a third goal for Scotland just at the dire end of the game. The boy's got an engine on him, and if it needs called upon, then I'm sure he will oblige. But that's as we're nearly 5 minutes away for kick-off, Bhoycie. So I think we'll allow the guys to get their pies in the oven.
Yes.
Like if you've got a bit of a soggy one. Right, okay, we will.
Sounds like one of my weekends, mate. So good.
So, thank you everyone for joining us today, Bhoycie. Thanks for coming on the Sunday Blether.
Thanks,
Enjoy it, mate. Do you enjoy it?
I've loved it, David. And by the way, can I just say the Sunday Blether since you took over has went up a real amount of levels. I don't know if you've noticed the numbers, but we're doing so well with the Sunday Blether. I'm just chuffed that you put so much effort into it, mate. And it's a shame there's a game sometimes on a Sunday because you come up with all these talking points I would never have thought of on any of the shows, and you take us down wee paths. I'm like, fucking hell, I never thought of that. And it's a shame in the games that you kind of feel like you're a wee bit pressured to just talk about the game. Do you know what I mean? But keep up the great work, and it's been a pleasure to be on, and hopefully I'll get back on sometime soon.
Well, I appreciate it, my man. And we will probably have the usual Sunday lineup next week. In fact, quickly, no, you won't. I will not, unfortunately not be here. I'll be in York, so unfortunately, I'm sure Phil will be up for hosting. But I will see you in 2 weeks' time, and and the bus will be back on tomorrow, perhaps during the day. You never know.
P&P tonight. Me and Terry.
Oh, of course, yes. We've got a game on in 5 minutes, David. Come on. Right, get this wrapped up. We'll see you next week.
I'll see you later.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.